This is part 2 of our January 2023 episodes about fitness in midlife. Hello and welcome to the Air Hug Community Podcast. Welcome back if you've been here before. If you're new, this is a podcast that talks about pretty much midlife fitness. And we talk about mental, physical, and emotional fitness here. So we're kind of personal development. We're kind of fitness. We're all around healthy, basically. And sometimes we have guests, and a lot of times we don't. So it just depends on what's going on. But today, I wanted to pop in. This is another episode on fitness in the new year. And so we are publishing this early in January of 2023. And today I want to talk about some myths that people have around fitness, especially myths that make them think they had a good workout. And the first one is sweating. Sweating can happen or not. You know, I actually had a client who didn't have sweat glands and she literally did not sweat. But anyways, that's another story. But sweating is not an indication of how effective your workout was. I will tell you, if you're working out in humid conditions, you're going to sweat. You'll be sweating before the warm-up is done, right? But let's say you're working out, and this is the case a lot of times in our gym here. In the winter, our gym is very, very dry. And no matter how hot we get, some of us just don't sweat. You know, and it's also not very warm. It's which is great. You know, we just dress for the weather, literally. And we may not sweat, but it doesn't mean we didn't get a good workout. I will tell you, if you're doing more of a strenuous cardiovascular workout, maybe you're going to sweat, or if you're working a lot of large muscle groups together, doing compound movements, i.e. more than one muscle group at a time, you're going to sweat more than if you were just maybe doing bicep curls, right? Or calf raises, for example. So sweating is not an indicator. Sweating is the way your body cools itself off, one of the ways. Another way is vasodilation, which just means that your blood vessels dilate so they can release heat from right below your skin, so you might look red. Some people get very red and don't sweat. Some people do both. Some people do one or the other. But none of these is an indication of how hard you worked. It just means that your body was hot. And a hot body, no pun intended, but a hot body is not an indication of how hard you're working either. All right? So I just want to put that out there. The next little myth I want to bust is that you don't have to be sore in order for your workout to be effective. Soreness, I'm going to say this over and over again, soreness is not an indicator of the effectiveness of your workout, period. So put that myth to rest. So soreness, or delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS for short, often occurs when you're doing a move or an exercise or a compound movement in a way that you haven't done recently. And that may actually cause you to feel some pain post-workout. It could happen immediately or it can be delayed. But let's say you're doing a workout for maybe, we do our workout programs for about 4-ish weeks. By the 4th week, we generally don't get sore because we have already trained those muscles. And you hope by the time you're doing something for the 4th week in a row that you're more efficient at it, right? That's the whole goal, right? And you may want to go ahead and do it for a 4th or a 5th week, or those of us like me and some of the people in our gym, we tend to get bored a little quicker, so we stick to around 4 weeks. But the point is, when you come back to doing something that you haven't done in a while, or if you're doing it for the first time, you're more likely to have soreness than if you've been doing that exercise for a while. And by the way, you don't want to do the same workout for years or months or weeks on end. Weeks on end, maybe up to like 4-ish, 5-ish, maybe 6 at the most. I've never done anything for 6 weeks. My ADD wouldn't let me. But that is a myth that I want to bust. You don't have to be sore. Another myth that I want to bust is you don't need to work out for a certain number of minutes to be effective. In the episode before this, we talked about how often you should work out, and we talked about covering certain movement patterns, push, pull, hinge, squat, lunge, and carry, We've laid that out in the last episode before this. We want to do those movement patterns twice per week. Now, if you have other goals, we might want to work on some other things, and throw that in there within that framework of at least twice per week. Maybe we work them out twice per week, but we're going to do more sets of one than the other. For example, we're always doing more pull workouts than push. But my original point is it's not how many minutes you work out, it's how many movement patterns you cover in a week. So I have definitely been guilty of this. In my earlier years, I will say that I literally recorded my minutes of cardio per week, and I would get very angry if I didn't get like 60 cardio minutes in 5 days a week. I've certainly gotten over that, especially when I learned that that really is not a measure of effectiveness. Another thing, I've had many coaches talk about volume. Volume is great, but you don't have to be doing math equations. I went through a period in my life where I literally wrote down the number of pounds that I lifted each week or each workout for each exercise. Not that important, okay? But getting those movement patterns in, the 6 movement patterns in twice per week. And if you want to know the rest of it, you can go back to that episode on how often you should work out. Yep, so here comes a few more things that pop up that people say to me, fallacies. Deadlifts are bad for you. No, deadlifts are not bad for you. Bad deadlifts are bad for you. Bad deadlifts are not really deadlifts. But there's a lot of talk out there about how people shouldn't do deadlifts. And I'll tell you what, if you learn to do a deadlift properly, it will be your friend. You will reap the benefits from doing it. If you get coached up on learning how to do them properly, they will actually help your body. So deadlifts are not bad for you. What's another one? Knees over toes is bad. Well, knees over toes is not necessarily bad, right? But we just have to make sure we're in alignment and we know what we're doing. Here's a myth that you can target certain areas to lose fat. That is just not true. Of course, we all wish it were true. I've seen women doing hundreds and hundreds of sit-ups hoping that they'll get flat abs, but it just doesn't work. It's not how you're going to get really strong. You may, if you're doing them right, get strong abdominals, but they may or may not be flat. Another one is that no pain, no gain. Well, pain is not really an indicator of effectiveness of a workout. You can have exhaustion and you can get to the point. I think people overuse the word pain. They exaggerate it. But if you have true pain, that's an indication to stop. It doesn't mean go until you get pain. All right? So here's my favorite myth to bust. And this is something that my dogs are back there talking. Don't mind them. They're just lovely creatures. This is my favorite myth to bust. Lifting weights will make you bulky. Listen, I've been in gyms where there are guys who are lifting weights like crazy and they would give anything to be bulky and they're barely getting there. All right? So ladies, you are not going to get bulky if you lift weights. It's simply not true. Now, I will be happy to work with you and talk with you about how we can craft a program where you feel comfortable lifting, because we really should feel comfortable lifting, right? Muscle that is strong is your best friend as you get older, and you lose it if you don't do something to maintain it. But as far as getting bulky, you would not get that in your 2, 3, or 4 strength workouts that are going to be, maybe 30 to 90 minutes. And I don't really know anyone who likes to work out for 90 minutes, myself included. That would be an exaggeration. So if you're working out 2, 3, or 4 days a week, you are not going to get bulky from lifting weights. Now, what you might see is a little swelling of the muscle group that you just worked. And so a lot of women will say to me, when I do lower body and I lift, my jeans don't fit. And I'm like, that's temporary. You've got some swell. Some of us really like that swell. It's temporary. It's water in the muscle. It's inflammation, and it goes away. It doesn't mean that you grew muscle overnight, if only. But it just doesn't work that way. So lifting weights does not make you bulky. In fact, if you get stronger, and this is not why I want you to lift weights, But if you do get stronger, you actually will consume more energy at rest, and there is a chance that you may be burning some fat. And so you may actually lean out, right? And so actually getting stronger is helpful for leaning out. And I do put that in there because practically speaking, almost all of the women that I talk to would rather be leaner than what they are now. Now, we take that with a grain of salt, or maintain leanness, but we don't want that to be our number one thing because people can just get into warped, disordered thinking around their workouts if that's the only thing that they want to do. So let's see, do I have any? Oh, come on, guys, stop barking. They're all getting excited back there. Okay, here's another one, detox to lose weight. You don't need a detox if you have a liver that works. Okay? Detoxes are basically money grabs. Keep the money in your pocket. If you've gone through a period of time where you haven't eaten well, go back to eating well. Okay? Prioritize vegetables, right? Drink your water, get adequate protein, and get adequate carbohydrates, which brings me to my next one. Carbohydrates are not bad for you. Carbohydrates are a necessary macronutrient of life. Quick review here. What are the macronutrients? And I'm saying nutrients. They are carbohydrates, protein, and fats. And we need all of them in our diet. Different people, because we are all individuals, will benefit from having different amounts of each, but nobody benefits from an extremely low carbohydrate diet. I don't care what the diet people out there who are trying to make money off of fads and trying to prey on people's desire to lose weight fast. We aren't going to lose weight fast. If you need to lose weight, fast is not the way to do it, okay? But anyways, carbohydrates are necessary. If you're strength training, and I hope you are, 2 to 4 days a week, you actually need carbohydrates to get through your workout. You need carbohydrates to fuel your brain, okay? And you just need to eat in the right amount of calorie range for yourself. But I'm not telling you to count calories. That's another story. You can look up calorie counting as an episode here, and we cover that elsewhere. So those are some of the myths that people have around fitness, and I hope we can put them to rest once and for all. All right, hop back next week on Tuesday for a new episode here on the Earhart Community Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please share this episode with anyone who you love that is trying to get fit. I just wanted to pop in and let you know if you wanted to listen to that episode on detoxing myths, that's episode number 60.